Normally, I wouldn't record a Not Everyone Is Here right after another Not Everyone Is Here, but I really wanted to get into this topic, and that is Digimon. Digimon, for those who don't know, essentially started off as a digital monster, let's put it that way. You know, it was one of those virtual pet simulators, but keeping in mind a male audience, right, like boys, right? Whereas Tamagotchi at the time, the counterpart, was seen as more for girls, right? So, you know, it was around that time, whatever, you know. I don't want to hear any discussion on that in the comments. What I really want to discuss with this series is something that's intriguing to me. Now, when it comes to Smash, we have two characters who don't really have like their own console to their own, right? Sort of, for one character. But we have Rob, which is a toy, and we have Mr. Game Watch. And Mr. Game Watch is comprised of several Game & Watches, which, you know, are all essentially, let's just call it what it is, they're handheld calculator games, right? You know, LED type games, whatever. We all know them. You've probably seen them in your store once or twice. Tiger Electronics puts out these terrible things on occasion, whatever, right? So, obviously, Game & Watch and Rob are very different from other characters in, well, Smash. Some characters come from, you know, Nintendo consoles, obviously. Some come from PlayStation, you know, DS, Game Boy era type characters. Very interesting, right? It's very, you know, a group of characters that all kind of come from like the same type of tree, different branches, right? Then we have Game & Watch. Now, Game & Watch, like I said, it's basically a calculator, but so is Digimon when you think about it. To me, it brings up an interesting topic. Would Digimon be considered eligible for Smash? Because, well, while it has had games, right, and the like, it also has an anime, which a lot of the characters in Smash also had OVAs and animes, etc., right? Digimon essentially started off as a virtual pet simulator, right? And you know, it's pretty popular. A lot of people compare Digimon to Pokemon. You know, there's battling and all this sort of stuff, whatever. I'm not going to get into the specifics. I never myself owned a Digimon, nor did I know people who owned one, but I knew of it, right, thanks to the anime. But it's gotten me interested, right, because, you know, what in your mind would you even consider a video game character anymore, right? Like, put it from this perspective. Would Sakurai, just think of it from this, would Sakurai add Agumon as an example, right? Because, yeah, you could make the argument that, well, the simulation, would you even consider it a game? By that, I would say yes, because games are interactive media, right? There's something that you yourself control, and it's not like a movie. A movie, you just, I mean, I guess there's some interaction, right? You put the DVD or Blu-ray into the player, boom, you watch it on TV, but when it comes to the actual movie itself, you can't affect what happens in it, right? Whereas in a game, like say a visual novel, right? Like, let's say a crime-styled visual novel, you obviously, there are puzzles, things to solve, things to look through, like, that's a game, right? In the same vein, a rhythm game is a game, or a puzzle game is, well, a game, right? They're all different genres, and in a sense, Digimon is a genre. I was so intrigued by this because I often don't hear people talk about this. Normally when it comes to Smash nowadays, it's just same 5 characters, which I made fun of before, so there's no need to joke about it again, right? And another thing, man, Sakurai is really digging up the bottom of the barrel. Like, who's left? I always hear that one too, and that one annoys me even more somehow, but you know, when we consider things like Digimon, well, it's a very popular series, and if the question is, does it deserve a rep or not? I mean, hey, that's up to you. That's, you know, that's your personal opinion. But, you know, I would say that it's popular, that I think it deserves representation. It's a part, in a sense, of gaming history, right? And a unique aspect of gaming history. One that some would say Game & Watch feels, but not really. Because, you know, Game & Watch, it's sort of like, they're micro games in a sense, right? Like, ball, you juggle the ball, whatever. You know, you have the one where you're like the you're basically trying to grab the treasure from the octopus, whatever, and you get more points, right? But Digimon, you're essentially just taking care of a virtual pet. So in that way, would you, and I'm talking about you, the viewer, would you consider Digimon a franchise that should be in Smash in any way, shape, or form, mind you? You know, I'm not arguing if it should be a fight or not. I'm just saying whether or not you think it should even be represented. You see, that's a very interesting topic, right? Because then we talk about other games, right? Video games, like, say for instance, as an example, all right, this is like a complete hypothetical. Let's say Doom, instead of starting on, you know, computer, let's say it started off as a calculator game. Yes, a calculator game, a game that you play, you move it with the arrows, and your guns are your number pads and whatever, right? Like, let's say Doom started off as a handheld calculator game. Would you consider it a game? Well, I would, right? Because it's still a game. It's still something you're interacting with, you know. Iwata, you know, as an example, one of his first games was on a calculator. So when I put it like in that perspective, I just find the idea of a Digimon character joining Smash, be it either a fighter, spirit, or Mii costume, whatever the case may be, I find it intriguing. Because while yes, we do have Game & Watch, the difference between something like Game & Watch and Digimon is that Game & Watch is owned by Nintendo, right? That's a Nintendo owned product, so of course it's gonna get special rules in a sense, right? If Nestor were to join Smash, despite basically being the Nintendo Power mascot until Nintendo Power died, that would make sense because, well, Nestor is a Nintendo owned series. But what about series that aren't owned by Nintendo? You know, series that are popular that didn't start off on a console, but rather start off on like a miniature calculator sort of device, right? Would Nintendo, would Sakurai, in theory, go for that, you know, and put it in Smash? I'm just a theoretical, you know. I find it interesting. I find it different because, like, obviously, you know, games nowadays can be played on basically anything, right? Like, games, you can play it on, you know, your PC, your console, fridge, whatever the case may be. You can play games on anything. But this is something that's old and something that I kind of just wanted to talk about, bring in some interesting discussion, because you know, Smash nowadays, it's only about two main things now that we're down to our last character, right? It's same 5 characters. I already joked about it, not gonna make a joke about it again. And Sakurai scraping the bottom of the barrel, which is not true. All right, there are definitely a lot more video game characters out there than people realize that are popular and, in my opinion, deserving. But because people just don't think outside of the franchises they want, they're just gonna be like, hey, they Sakurai really picked this guy, eh? Like, it's so stupid. It's so unbelievably stupid. But like, when it comes to Digimon, I just wanted to ask that question, right? Because I feel it's important to talk about these things. Like, Sakurai claims that Smash has become a celebration of gaming. That statement holds a lot of power, a lot of weight. But in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, despite what Sakurai says, I consider that a big fat lie. I do. Yeah, it has gaming's biggest all-stars, you can say, but I wouldn't call it a celebration of gaming. I mean, would you? Maybe I'm being a bit too crazy, but then again, am I? I want to talk about other series. For a few episodes, I will be covering American-made franchises and the lack of their representation in Smash. Because if Sakurai wants to claim celebration of gaming, isn't it a bit weird that so far, out of all the characters in the roster, the only ones that weren't made by a Japanese studio or owned by a Japanese studio, the characters like, what, Banjo? But Banjo is associated with Nintendo. You have Steve. Alright, you have like a few minor characters there. But for the most part, it's basically all Nintendo, which Nintendo has made a lot of gaming's legacy. I won't deny that. But at the same time, it's always sort of bothered me that, you know, here we have Smash, and yet for whatever reason, despite calling itself a celebration of gaming. Where's the American stuff? Where's stuff outside of Japan? More UK, Europe, Canada even. Games around the world, games that have left an impact all around the world. You can't tell me that the games that made the biggest impacts all come from Japan, right? I mean, come on. And that's why I'll be covering a lot of American-owned franchises from here on. Well, I'll still sprinkle in other franchises, of course, because there's always series to talk about and discuss. But I've always just had an issue with Sakurai claiming that Smash in itself is a celebration of gaming. Because in some sense, it is, but in my perspective, I just don't agree. With that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please take care of yourselves, and as always, have an amazing rest of your wonderful day. I hope you guys are doing well. Please take care, subscribe, because I'm a shill, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
I'm coming through, partner with the tools right. You're the fire, I'm the wind tonight. Burning tread, ha, that's right, baby, baby, baby.